Hey guys, welcome to the MC Anime Podcast. We cover anime, geek culture, Japanese aesthetics, and Asian studies. We are a multi-fandom podcast, and you can expect to hear topics in your favorite hobby or fandom activity potentially. You can find MC Anime on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Also, please check out mcanimepodcast.com, our website. Furthermore, stay tuned in for another episode.
Welcome to another episode of MC Anime. MC here, and we're back with a guest today. So, Sam B, how are you doing today?
I am excellent. How are you? And let me say it's a pleasure to be on your show there, MC.
It's not too bad. So, for the day, before we get into today's episode, Sam B, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and if you have any social media that people, can reach you.
All right, well, if you guys want to meet me on social media, about the only place I hang out is Discord.
Okay, that's understandable.
Just because social media is like, it's whatever.
You know.
I'm an older guy. I'm over 30. I've been doing technology for the last 25 years. When I first started with technology, we were on a 286DX. And if anybody knows anything about, silicon, then 286DX was a while ago.
Yeah. But yeah.
So currently I work for Dell Technologies, undisclosed location. Not gonna tell you guys where. Don't ask. But I run a field service office for Dell, and we do field R&D as well as, normal field work. And field work can be anything from your desktop PC all the way to 120 server racks at a time.
Wow. All right. So that's a little bit about Sam B, what he does, potentially where you can find him. Further ado, today's episode is going to be about Dell Technology, research and development. So how does that play out into the scheme of things as a field office administrator?
Well, most of the stuff, what do you think of when I say Dell Technology is just, laptops, little desktops. They make a couple gaming PCs, stuff like that. Most people don't know that they make all kind of craziness. Like recently we made an actual engine conversion kit to convert older cars to electric engines.
Oh,
yeah, it's really cool. So you can take like a 1970s model, whatever, and you can convert it to an electric engine and with the battery pack and everything you need. And it's literally just the kit. It's good to go from the kit, install it, and you get an electric car.
is the kit cheaper than the actual version of electric car?
The kit's about $12,000.
Oh, so it's basically an alternative to electric car.
Well, no, it's still an electric car. It's just an alternative to buying. And like let's say the cheapest model Tesla is $60,000, and you've got like a classic, I don't know, Ford Mustang or something, and you want to switch it to electric, it's $12,000.
Well, that's still better than actual buying a new car.
Well, it's something we did. I say Mustang because it's something we did in conjunction with Ford Motors.
Oh, okay.
For the Ford Motor Company.
Okay. That's really cool, though, because it gives you an alternative to what the actual car is, but actually converts the car into the electrical aspect, what the electrical car is.
Yeah.
How long will that been? You guys were working on that?
Can't tell you that.
Okay. So you probably development for like 6+ months, maybe 2 years out. Who knows how long?
Oh, I'll tell you this. It's closer to like 7 or 8 years than it was to 6 months.
But the technology for the electric car hasn't been around that long, so that's kind of interesting.
The technology for electric cars has been around since the 70s.
And we haven't experimented until now because
it never really hit mainstream until probably 10, 12 years ago. You can blame Toyota because Toyota, brought up the Toyota Prius, and then that's kind of what pushed everybody in that particular direction.
There you go. So, through the advancements of technology in general, how will you specify advancement is good or necessary for the industry?
Well, advancement is always good. Advancement is always necessary. I think we have to be responsible about it because e-waste is really a thing. And generation over generation, the gains are starting to go down. Like, not horribly, but they are starting to go down. It's not 3 times performance, 4 times performance anymore.
Gotcha. So the performance of technology itself, it becoming smaller, is not as if technology becoming more compact, then it's becoming less of what it was before.
See, the way we started out on huge circuits, right? Let's say when we started, we had 120 nanometer circuits. And over the years, we've gotten the process down to where we can fit more circuits onto a single piece of silicon. That way we get more cores onto a single piece of silicon. And then the smaller process uses less energy, so you get more power with less energy used in a smaller package. The problem is we're running into it now where it's getting harder and harder to shrink the package down, because right now we're at 3 nanometers. And it's like subatomic level. A nanometer is super small, and we're at 3 nanometer processes. So if we go any smaller, we can probably get to 1 nanometers in the next 5-6 years and be all right. But that's literally chip processing. That's something that Dell doesn't do itself.
Is there a certain point where it becomes so small that the technology doing is not as impactful because it's harder to work on?
That's kind of where we've been for the past 5 years or so. Is where it gets harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder to shrink it down. So in order to get any kind of significant performance gain, we have to up it somewhere else. That's why the current Intel 13th gen processors can pull 600 watts. That's why the 14th gen processors have to have a cooling package of 650 watt capability, stuff like that, you know?
Oh, okay. So if the size is getting to the point where it's more efficient, you have to basically put protocols in place for the safety of the device to function properly to boost the performance.
We'd have to the biggest enemy to computing is heat. In order to get more power or more, speed or whatever out of something, we have to apply more power, which makes more heat. And that's why it's getting to the point where you have to have a 2,000 watt cooler.
And the 2,000 watt cooler is what type of size computer?
That would be a server. It would be a server. So something like a SP3 size board.
Okay. And the server, is it like size of a desk kind of size, or is it?
Depends on what you would call a desk size normally, and it depends on the board. Some boards have 3 and 4 processors. Some boards only have 1.
All right, what's the standard?
2. Normally, standard is 2 processors per board in a server, but there's 4, there's 6, there's 8. It just depends on your particular setup. But that goes in whenever you start talking about that, you start going into like data centers and stuff, and then data center is a whole different level of computing than what most people are using. And data center and enterprise is where probably 80-90% of all computing is done. Like, let's say you got your computer, you turn it on, you play a game, all the info from your computer gets sent to a data center where the actual game is hosted, and that's where the game is actually played, and you've got 10-12,000 people on this one computer at one time playing a game. And that's why you would need all that computing power.
All right. So with the processing power that we have for the standard versus the different models and make, how does that translate into which specific processor you need for the project you're going to use it? How you differentiate that?
Really? How do I differentiate that process? It's all about workload. It's really all about workload. It's like if you're just going to play games, it depends on the game you're going to play. If you're doing some heavy compute, it depends on, what kind of setup you want, because there are different options. If you're just going to, be a large server site for just data storage, there's a whole different everything. So, you can break it down, but there's no one good formula. Even my buddy at Oracle, it's his job. It's literally his job to decide what processes run on which processors on which servers. And it's really just about workload.
True. Because when I decided my technology to use for, say, the podcast, while I needed to upgrade to a computer that could have the storage I needed, but also run efficiently and not be an old processing power. So my choice was a laptop.
What kind of gaming laptop did you get?
I got an MSI, newest version.
One of the G66 Leopards?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a decent one.
It has like 500 gigabytes, and then it has like some other storage, has the processing power. Well, the problem I think I got it for is have a standard use, but also have upgraded.
Yeah, the biggest issue with laptops, no matter what the brand, no matter if it's an HP, if it's a Dell, if it's a Lenovo, if it's an MSI, if it's an Asus, the biggest issue with laptops is upgradability, because they're not built to be upgraded.
Okay. So the feature in laptop being the technology of being mobile, as they say, that's the trade-in for upgradability.
That's exactly what the trade-in is. It's a powerful machine. You can carry it wherever you need. It's extremely mobile. 90% 90% of the time, they're fairly efficient. They weigh less than 5 pounds. You can carry it in a bag. You know what I mean? Where an equivalent desktop would be 700 watts. It would weigh 35 pounds. You'd have to carry a package of stuff. You'd have to carry a monitor, your peripherals. A laptop is just one unit. And that's actually where the technology for laptops came about is we all needed a way to go be mobile with a computer without carrying, a Pelican case that weighs 400 pounds worth of stuff to go work on something. And then now, over the past few years, we've developed NFC devices, which are near field communication devices, tablets, stuff like that. And we use that instead of actually using a laptop or an actual desktop or anything to communicate with the servers and stuff that we work on. Now we use NFC devices.
Oh, okay. Because the industry I'm in is drives that we keep upgrading to new systems. So, like, for example, Food Lion is a grocery store chain.
I know Food Lion.
Hayes, and they're
near me.
The national program is the tab. They use the Depot tablet powered by Android to do all the processing for the food production.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the problem. It has very weird kinks in the system. You have to do certain things, specific protocol. And if you don't do it right, it messes it up. You have the data. So basically, they track it remotely. And it's a big pain because now you have to check mark, then you do the scaling, then you do the food production, and you have to do food production every single day. They track everything, and they keep coming in. Now you see new corporate people because of the special niche to the tablet.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing about the tablet. The tablet itself is not a bad invention. The tablet was just a way to be a little more mobile. Now, the tablets that you have are just cheap knockoff Android platforms that can run one or two programs, this or that. They're like completely low grade. They're really not meant to be doing what you're doing. They work, but it's just like super cheap, not built well. The platform the Android platform is actually a Linux platform that's been adapted by Google. Yeah, so that it can run on their mobile platforms, which there's nothing wrong with. I love Linux, honestly, because you can do anything you want on Linux. But the issue is it's so limited on a little tablet like that. There's not a lot you can do. And then from that tablet right there, it goes, all that data backtracks to a server and it's all stored and all the check marks and all that stuff. Now, we developed a tablet a few years back now. We developed a tablet that is literally a laptop inside a tablet. Microsoft's really popular. Microsoft made it super popular. They came out with the Surface Pro and the Surface Pro RT.
Yeah, true.
But Microsoft had this problem where they tried to put an i7 processor inside a Surface Pro RT and it melted the tablet. Now, through R&D, through lots of research, through a lot of field trials, through a lot of testing, we developed a tablet that can hold an i7 without any heat issues.
Okay. But wouldn't something like that be the research and development go into that be more expensive?
Yeah, it is more expensive.
Is research? Okay.
Yeah. Here's the thing about research. I'll explain it to you the best way I know how. The first Tylenol, everybody knows what Tylenol is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first Tylenol cost about $10 billion. The very first one cost about $10 billion. The second one cost about a tenth of a penny because all the research funds are on that first one. But after you get the first one, it's just infinitely smaller every time you make another one.
Oh, and then when you also look at, let's say, the microwave is a really good example of how technology over the years has progressed. You used to have these oven-sized microwaves that ran on less operating power, more, to be actually dangerous. And now you have more portable microwaves.
Well, yeah, now with microwaves were first invented, microwaves how they were invented is really, really cool to me. There were a couple scientists. There were a couple scientists that were trying to figure out if they could use microwaves to communicate with each other, like for military communications and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they were in a microwave field trying to communicate with each other. And one of the scientists had a chocolate bar in his pocket and it melted because of the microwave. Yeah.
Discovered radiation. That's the theory actually that.
Yeah. The way microwaves work is they take the water molecules inside whatever it is that it's microwaving and it makes them vibrate violently. Like they just can't sit still. And the friction from the molecules inside of whatever it is what actually does the cooking inside a microwave. Now, when microwaves were first invented, they were huge. People were afraid of them. They were like oven sized. They weren't shielded very well because we didn't know much better than that. And over the years, the way technology's progressed, we found a way to make more microwaves and make them in a smaller package and then shield them better inside an even smaller unit. So now microwaves are the size they are now, and they're infinitely less risk than they used to be. But they were a whole lot of risk to start with unless you were standing inside of them. Yeah, the only risk is if you're standing inside of it.
Well, no, they also say you shouldn't stand too close to it or in front of it as well.
Well, Well,
so long list that way you can also be like,
well, that's years, and that's probably 15, 20 years ago before the shielding caught up to the actual microwaves. So it's not as bad anymore. I still don't recommend standing right next to it, but I mean, it's not going to hurt you.
like a hurt you as it would.
Yeah,
And not be expensive.
exactly.
What's the technology that used to be expensive and now will be accessible? Solar panels still will be good progression.
Computers used to be completely inaccessible. A desktop computer was the size of a house, and it cost millions and millions and millions of dollars. It could only do simple instructions, and it basically just did math on its own. That's like the best example. One of the first, I think Alan Turing invented the first. The first what we call a mainframe computer back in the day was literally as big as a house, and that was in the 60s. And then after 20 some odd years of development, we ended up with personal computers, which were still very, very large.
Yeah.
Then 20 years after that, we ended up with, these huge chunk of metal laptops that were about the size of a suitcase. And then now 20 years after that, we have laptops that weigh 1.5 pounds and take up less space than a pizza box.
Yeah.
And they're more powerful, and they're infinitely more powerful. They're probably 10 million times more powerful. Like we did a test the other day just to see how far processors have come. And let's say the 7950X, right, compared to the AMD K6, AMD K6, the 7950X is 9,980 some odd thousand times faster than the AMD K2. And that's just been 20 years. Can you imagine what it's been for 40 years? But a lot of the research and development that goes into it, and it comes from, is we need more processing power. We need to be able to do this. We need to be able to do this faster. We need to do this more. We need to be able to do that. And it's just slowly and progress just from there. And in 20 more years, we might be on, whatever is smaller than a nanometer.
Yeah. When do you think your phone's going to be obsolete?
I don't think phones will ever be obsolete.
You think they'll get even smaller than they are now, or just stay the same?
I don't know. Phones are kind of weird. They'll probably get a little smaller. I don't know. Phones are a weird platform because phones they're still just phones. They're progressing more into like mini computers, and they're progressing. They're trying to take. There's a lot of people going toward gaming phones and stuff like kind of like late laptops. Do I think they'll ever be obsolete? No, not unless Elon Musk figures out how to make Neuralink work. I don't think phones will ever be obsolete.
Well, they get to these weird graphics that you can actually like have a glass screen and now have a smaller screen size. Now it's more portable, but
Like Google Glass.
yeah, something like that. But if you get to that stuff, it's more vulnerable. Not as
Well, right now it's vulnerable. Right now it's extremely vulnerable. Right now it's hard to do. But that's how technology, that's how R&D works. Is right now it's hard to do. What can we do to make it better? What can we do to make it easier? What can we do to make it cheaper? What can we do to make it smaller? What can we do to make it more accessible? And these are the questions you have to ask yourself. How do we make it more functional? How do we make it just more accessible to everybody? How can we make it, instead of a want, how can we make it a need?
Yeah, and I think the only progression to phones is potentially the smaller size or smaller hardware or hologram. That's the only way I think it'll be like advancing to the point where the phones we have now will be as obsolete as the car phone, because they had to cut the corners for the car phone on frequencies just for people to use the new phone.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with the car phone. They had to cut a bunch of frequencies just for people to go from the newer phone.
Well, they do that a lot. The FCC does that. Everybody has a certain range of frequencies they're allowed to use according to the FCC, and they're allowed to use them for certain things.
Well, here's my question. So if the car phone was very versatile in its usage, why did they have to push it out and have new phones out?
Because the mobile phone's more popular. You can't carry a car phone with you. It's in your car. You can carry a mobile phone in your pocket. It's everywhere. That was the killer. That was the killer of the car phone, is the fact that mobile phones got to the point where they were cheap enough for everybody to have one, cheap enough where anybody could have one. And they're versatile enough where you would use it. That's how the mobile phone replaced the car phone. That's how the mobile phone replaced the landline. That's how the mobile phone became not a want. It became a need. Name one person now that doesn't have a mobile phone. 20 years ago, everybody had a landline. Now, name one person that doesn't have a mobile phone. Some people still don't have one. them, it's whatever. But
Only people I can think of living off the grid,
exactly.
Amish or like Pacific culture or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because now the mobile phone has replaced car phones, it's replaced pay phones, it's replaced landlines. All that stuff disappeared because somebody figured out how to make it small enough that they can go anywhere. Everybody figured out how to make it powerful enough to do what all this other stuff does. Somebody found a way to make it cheap enough to where everybody could have one. And then they found a way to make everybody want one to the point where it became a cultural thing. And if you didn't have one, then you were just whatever. And now everybody's got one, and it's a necessity because you can't call people on landline. They don't exist. Can't call people on their car phone because there are no such thing as car phones. And you'll be lucky if you find a payphone anywhere.
Well, I have a landline. I have a landline for years. I still use it,
Yeah,
but I don't use it like I used to.
exactly. How often does your landline ring?
Not very often.
Exactly.
Usually, family or these cases when my work trying to call me.
Yeah, but that is how R&D works. That is how our R&D persists. Those are the questions you asked in R&D. And then the way technology R&D works is we need something that can do this easier, more efficiently. And that's how you get stronger, more efficient stuff.
Okay.
And then new programs will come out, or somebody will have a new need for they need to be able to do this in this much time. So we need to find a way to make that happen in this shorter amount of time.
Do you think the blockages and the different frequencies that car phone had were either because of obsolete or because they wanted to promote the newer phone so people get even more people to join?
I think it's obsolete.
Yeah.
I think out of 10,000 cars, you'll probably find 0 car phones. Out of 100,000 cars, you might find 1. Out of 1,000,000 cars, you might find 10.
Well, but the technology still exists, but the frequency is not used unless you use satellite. That's the only way you can get cell with it.
But why would you do that when now cars come with,
Bluetooth or smart technology, stuff like that.
Exactly. And now cars even come with their own Wi-Fi that runs on that particular bandwidth that car phones used to use. Some of that's been allotted to cars for onboard Wi-Fi.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't think that they eliminated the frequency just because, we needed to switch everybody to car phones. I think they eliminated the frequencies because it's the same reason we eliminated analog TV. It was just a convenience thing. Nobody's really using it anymore. Well, we switched that's why we switched to digital TV. It's easier, it's faster, it's better.
But they're still mandated by law to do an analog thing.
Yeah. There's still the analog is now it's mandated that analog is for emergency broadcast.
Oh,
So they still have to maintain an analog signal, which is no big deal, but it's mainly just for
true. I'd actually miss analog. I think from the cable company, it was a lot easier to do the analog signal. For me, it was a lot. I grew up and I actually personally like analog. Okay, the cable now you have to buy the box, you have to buy the maintenance. More money involved than what the analog.
Yeah, but that was a federal thing. That didn't have anything to do with technology, really. We can make digital signals. We should use digital signals, and we can change the analog signals to something else. And since that was done by the government, everybody just had to adapt. That wasn't a technology advancement. That was just the government stepping in and saying, "Hey, we're going to do this now." And that same thing happens with us. Is sometimes the government will step in and say, "Hey, we're not going to do this anymore, so we can't do that anymore."
True. That's like different example of why technology be obsolete or not used as much, even though it's still relatively available.
Yeah.
Now storage is now going from hardware to software. So
You mean it's going from hard drive to
hardware.
we're not.
External device into now external memory to now like cloud based.
Well, I mean, you got to remember how storage started. Yeah, I know. When storage first started, we used tape drive. Well, actually, we didn't use tape drive. We used magnetic tape. We literally used magnetic tape to start with. And 1 megabyte of magnetic tape weighed 60 pounds.
Okay.
And you could erase it with a magnet. You walk too close to it with a magnet, it would be erased. So we moved from that to a magnetic disc. There's still tape backups. There's literally still tape backups today. Financial institutions use tape backups like you wouldn't believe. They're stored offsite, but that's just a go-to safety precaution. So the technology is still widely available. The floppy disk technology is still widely available. They can turn the production back on it tomorrow. It costs less than a penny to make a floppy drive. Hard disks, like HDDs, hard disk drives, the spinning disk, the platter hard drives is what we call them.
Yeah.
People still use them. The technology has gone come a long way. When we first started with spinning disks, we had 590 megabyte spinning disks. They were large, they were heavy, they were slow, super slow. Then over the years, it's progressed to where we got to 2,600 RPMs, we got to 5,400 RPMs, we got to 10,000 RPMs. We shrunk the original 5 pound, 6 pound HDD down to less than a pound now. First and foremost, they were just single platter discs that we were using, and it was a magnetic write and magnetic read. And that's over the years, that's changed a lot.
What's the industry standard for storage now?
M2s, we use M2s most of the time. We use M2s, and M2 started as the way M2s actually came about was non-volatile RAM and IEE problems, which was as long as it had power, it wouldn't lose whatever you written or whatever you wrote on it. And it kind of progressed from there to now it's just solid state.
Oh, so is M2 a process to store the information?
The process it's still the same. The information still stores the same way. It's
okay,
but
that's not going to be corrupted.
Corruption normally happens on HDDs because of the platter, the way it was designed. And a lot of people don't know this, but the way it was designed, it would write something on one particular part of the platter, and your folder would be a directory to where that section of platter was, and so on and so. So when you deleted something, it would make a fragmentation here, a fragmentation there, and you would have to defragment it. And over time, it just wore the platter out, and the platter couldn't handle it anymore. The platters are better now, and then SSDs work off actual switches and not magnetic reads like that. I mean, it still stores data the same way. It goes from the RAM to the storage, but instead of being stored as a magnetic read somewhere on the platter, it's just on and off switches.
Okay,
that store the electrical impulse that are data. Because
gotcha.
Everything that we know as data actually breaks down to it's an electrical signal.
True. So what's the best? Let's say a private individual. What's the best storage for them? So standard day storage.
Depends on the need.
Not going to be corrupted. That's not going to be that can be lasting for many years.
Well, everybody hates on the HDDs because they're just not popular anymore. But I'll be honest with you, I still like them. I think they're still viable to an extent. The best cheap storage is probably an HDD. You can get, I think it's 10 cents a gigabyte now, maybe less, 8 cents a gigabyte, something like that. It might be 4 cents a gigabyte. You can get a 2 terabyte for
external hard drives, but they last a while.
Well, external hard drives are built a little beefier than internal hard drives. And most of the external hard drives you buy nowadays are just going to be solid state anyway.
True.
But on a personal, it just depends on the person, depends on what you're doing. If you need quick read writes, probably go with an M2 SSD, especially since the platform is super pop. It's the mainstream platform right now. SATA SSD still exists. There's still a decent option that's cheap. If you have to have a lot of storage that's fast, but not as fast as an M2, you could always go with a SATA SSD. If you just have a lot of storage, a lot of stuff you need to store pictures, songs, videos, that kind of stuff, I'd recommend some HDDs. It just depends.
Yeah. Typically, most individuals, 2 terabytes of storage is pretty much enough for the last what they're doing.
Well, most people, yeah, but then you got people like me that have 30 terabytes of storage.
Oh, true.
30 terabytes of solid state storage, and 40 terabytes of HDD, stuff like that.
And how often you actually access that?
All the time.
Oh, shoot.
I don't believe in having, stuff like that and not using it. So if I'm not going to use it, I'm not going to have it.
True. And most of it's residual data to the project you're working on. You have to go back to it if you say you need a refresh or something like that. Put guide, whatever you need it for as a reference. Or even use it for an entire project. You never know when it comes in handy.
Yeah. Some of the stuff you use is insane. Some of the amounts of stuff you use is insane. But most people just normal everyday computing, playing games, stuff like that. 2 terabytes is more than enough. 2 terabytes will be more than enough for the next 5 years or so.
True. That's what I have using cloud-based storage. So for 2 terabytes, because I work with all these different people overseas, and
there's nothing wrong with cloud-based storage. Cloud-based storage is really popular in the enterprise commercial level, just because it's easy to access from anywhere. So you don't have to have this device linked up to this device, linked up to that device, linked up to this device, because you can just put it on the cloud. Everybody can pull and take and push whatever they need.
But yeah, I had to get some videos downloaded. You're using Google Drive. Google Drive has the default storage you sent for free. Then you had the upgraded versions. But it gets down to the point, it's you're telling me you're using 15 different Google accounts just to have the storage saved, and now you can't use it because the crackdown on all alternate accounts of Google. It's okay, so I got to download it. Well, this time, how about this? Here's the 2 terabyte hard drive base that you can use on the cloud. alternative to Google, and it's not Google.
We actually do cloud storage, but as a service, as a subscription service.
Mm-hmm.
And some companies have a petabyte of cloud storage.
And
Petabyte.
that just makes my brain up.
That's 1,000 terabytes. That's what we do. We do cloud-based storage subscription, all that stuff. We can do computing as a service. We're starting to get into after a lot of market analysis stuff. We're starting to get into AI as a service where you can rent servers from us for AI computations and floating point integer computations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel with AI. I feel like
AI is a question for a whole different podcast. We could talk about that for days. We could talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the stuff nobody wants to talk about, all the stuff that everybody's afraid of that's not really going to happen, that could never really happen.
Well, most of it right now that companies is looking at is the API. They're trying to protect the API so they don't offer its premium instead of free version they have.
Well, the problem is with AI and APIs is a lot of APIs are protected. They're private. They're not supposed to be viewed by anybody. And AI most large scale language models were trained on copyrighted material, stuff that it shouldn't have been trained on. It didn't have permission to train on any of the stuff. And it's basically just one big plagiarism machine. And that's the issue with AI as far as developers go. It's because all the stuff that AI has learned on is copyrighted or it's trademarked or it's whatever. So it's basically giving away company secrets, and the company, they get a dime for it. So you could get on a language model AI and write your own API based on, and it'll be copied from somewhere else, bits and pieces of it. The AI does not know anything on its own. It's not predictive. It's predictive to an extent, but it's not truly predictive. It's not dynamic like a human brain at all. It's really good at it's like a giant Google search is all it is.
Yeah, pretty much. And I don't like it. I think it's progressing to a point where it's just going to keep affecting the copyright entertainment industry.
The problem with AI is it's gonna break half of the economy.
Not even that, but it's also going to be all these restrictions.
It's gonna break.
It's going to be new copyright.
It's gonna break half of the world economy because artists are gonna be out of business. People that do work in it, like factory workers, will be out of business because there won't be any need for you. Somebody trained an AI to run 500 machines, so instead of needing 600 people, you need 10 guys to keep the machines up. All this. And automation is not a bad thing. Automation is good for everybody to an extent.
But I don't think AI automation is what we need, actually.
I think it's bad for society as a whole.
Oh, I know. But, depending on what, it doesn't matter. I think AI is going to come to a point if the government doesn't step in and actually control it. And it's going to be a lot of laws in place. It's already there. And that's the problem. It's going to be major control by the government to actually stimulate what the universal law and then also international law. And going to be a lot of loss, a lot of damage to IP and how people protect intellectual property.
It's going to make it to the point where all IP will be super protected to the point where you won't be able to do anything at all. Everything will be super safeguarded. All R&D will be like, it's already behind lock and key, but it'll be like buried under lock and key.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially because some countries don't have copyright laws, and copyright infringement is one of the things that they're really good at. I'm not going to mention any names like the CCP or anybody, and copyright infringement, like 90% of everything they do, but it would be more widespread. It would be bad for everybody.
Yeah, because it's one of the newest technology.
It's one of the newest technologies that.
And the internet is the firestorm that is allowing AI to access all.
Well, yeah, because over the years we've all grown dependent on the internet. So the internet's literally a wealth of information. If there was ever any extraterrestrial species out there, they wouldn't know anything about us. All they would have to do is get on the internet. They would know everything about it.
True.
Especially because all the time.
Is there anything that what is needed to dial back AI to point it's not causing this problem?
Oh, that's real simple. A lot of people need to get together and they need to sue the AI company. Sue every one of them because they're trained on copyrighted material. They've literally infringed on every copyright on the internet. Just sue them. Sue them for copyright infringement. The cases will be so large they'll have no choice but to shut down.
Oh.
No one person can make enough data on their own to train a large scale language AI like ChatGPT. No one person can do that. It takes millions and millions of people to make enough data for that many data sets.
Yeah, and this sometimes might be your data. So,
Well, most of the time it is your data, because whenever you sign up to a website, you agree to the terms. You don't read it. You get on Facebook, you don't read the terms and conditions. You get on Google, you don't read the terms and conditions. You play a game, you don't read the terms and conditions. You sign up you go look at a website and you agree to accept the cookies and the terms and conditions. You have no idea where your data is at because you've given it away to everybody.
true. Even if you go on the internet, there's no protection of that data. You can safeguard some of it, but still could be leaked.
It can do. It can be leaked, it can be sold, or whatever. And it's on you for just signing the ticket and saying, yeah, sign me up. Let's go. Go grab my phone. So what then? We're gonna have to wrap this up in the next few minutes.
Okay. So we come to a closing statement. So what do you want to say about technology as a whole and Dell Technology and R&D?
Technology as a whole is great. That's really that. It's great. Makes your life easy. Makes your life easier. As far as Dell Technologies, I mean, I don't really have anything bad to say. It's a good company to work for. It's a great company. Matter of fact, we'll probably have to do this podcast again, just so we can get more into Dell.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great company to work for. They take care of you. They'll teach you. They'll train you. You got to have certain, qualifiers. But once you get in, it's great. R&D can't really talk a whole lot about R&D without getting in trouble. So R&D is great.
You need the research to do the development, and with the research, you do the development. So they both go hand in hand.
Yeah, the basis
The
for R&D
research owner involved and the stages to develop such research is the pinnacle of the advancement of the project itself.
Well, it's research and development. It's the pinnacle of advancement of humankind and civilization. But yeah, man, we're gonna probably have to do this again in a couple of days so we can get more into the Dell side and you can cut it all off for what you need to do.
Dell Technology is an interesting rabbit hole to explore.
Yeah. If you want, we can do another one. If you want, we can do another one just about R&D too. But we can't go into specific. But we can talk about we can talk about R&D processes and so on and so forth. We just can't talk about specific examples.
We could also talk about R&D in the past, stuff that was already public knowledge and all that stuff.
Yes, sir.
All right.
But it has been a pleasure. And like I said, set something up with me and we'll go from there.
All right. Thank you so much.
No problem. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Later.
This concludes another episode of MC Anime Podcast. MC Anime Podcast is available on podcast directories like Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. We also have our website at mcanimepodcast.com. If you want to directly support us, then follow Patreon blog MC Anime. Finally, if you want services for hire, then we're available on Fiverr for audio and video production, graphic design, idea consulting, and blog and article writing.